Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. I am here with another installment of Top Tarot Trumps, the year-long tag by Masha over at Musings by Masha, who I will link below. This is the installment where we talk about the devil and favorite devil cards. So I have chosen a number of devil cards to talk about. And with this one, I've really tried to capture some of the breadth of how I think about the devil and what the devil can symbolize for me in a reading, different significations of that card, I think of which there are many. So my devil cards have quite a wide range in terms of what they depict and I think what they get at. I have a couple of guidebooks to talk about briefly. As always, I will timestamp below in a descriptive but non-spoilering way the devil cards that I've picked. So, the first devil card, and this is not in order of preference or anything, just the first that I will talk about, devil card is from Le Tarot Souverain. And in this deck, the devil card is called Tentatrice, and this is a term that's like tempter or temptress. It's written in a way to make it gender neutral for a word that in French is gendered, but is a word like tempter, or one who tempts. And here we see a figure in handcuffs behind bars, grinning, with all around them for sale signs and promo signs and kind of all of the symbolism of capitalism in its current form that we might think of, 50% off and so on. And in the guidebook for this particular deck, which is a small little white book that just lists some keywords, and it's in French, so forgive me for taking my time here. The creator lists things like deviance from a system, learning the kind of incoherencies or inconsistencies of binary thinking. It also includes reference to dependence, financial or affective dependence, desires of the powerful without thought of the impacts of the realizing of those desires on the rest of the world. And power relations are all named in this little snippet of keywords. And I really like this in terms of being, one of those decks, and several of the devil cards in my video today are going to be like this, that goes there, right? In terms of thinking about what devil, what a devil might look like in contemporary society, contemporary culture, global economic dimensions, and so on. So this captures, I think, the part of the devil that has to do with the broader impacts of satisfying desires for more stuff, desires for stuff that is cheaper and more disposable, desires to enrich oneself in various kinds of ways at the expense of others, these kinds of temptations that present themselves in a capitalist context that have negative impacts, globally and environmentally. So I like that this is a deck that speaks to that, and this deck is explicitly framed as an eco-feminist deck, so its orientation is quite specific in that way. I would also like to share, I'm just grabbing a guidebook again here, the devil from a deck that I've shown quite a few times in Top Tarot Trumps and will continue to show, I'm sure, and that is Christy C. Rhodes' Next World Tarot, of course. And this is one of the cards that is not renamed. It is the devil, And it has here all kinds of imagery. You've got bald eagles and bombs, and there's children fighting over a remote control in the foreground, and there's dollar signs all over the place. And it says the new order of ages at the bottom. Devil. And I just want to share something from the guidebook that I like, that this card talks about. This card, in part, I'm skipping parts here, reads, "We live in a society where toxic values are handed to us as the safest, best option for survival. Sometimes those values or alliances erase our histories and uphold ideas that destroyed our sacred cultural pasts. Sometimes we have the choice to leave at the expense of our safety. Sometimes we choose to stay because we will suffer otherwise. Investigate your truth and your definition of safety. Who is truly being harmed? Who is truly safe? Are these ideas that you believe in?" And so a lot of what the guidebook goes on to talk about is, this card being an invitation to interrogate the decisions that one makes that may be decisions that don't align with one's values, that perpetuate injustices in various kinds of ways, but that feel like they might be the only option, that feel like they might be easier, that feel less challenging. And so, I think in terms of thinking about, the temptations of the devil, the sides of the devil that are challenging, that are difficult to confront, I think that this card and this deck bring some interesting angles to that. The guidebook goes on to talk about compromising oneself, and compromising oneself in a way that upholds hierarchical thinking. It asks, in your world, are spiritual connections, climate justice, and technology able to coexist? Which I think is an interesting question to ask. Dig deep into the choices we make in order to survive and question what it takes to escape what no longer serves. This is, I think, a really thought-provoking card. And I appreciate this deck for that. Now, next up, I have the Devil card from the Gentle Tarot by Mari in the Sky. And here in this Devil, you can see a person who is walking, and there's kind of their footsteps are indicated there where they've walked, and they have a chain that is dragging something along. And in the guidebook, Mari talks about, whatever's on the end of this chain is heavy, and whatever's on the end of this chain is holding the person back, is carrying that weight, is taking up energy that could be expended in other ways, I think this image implies. And in the Smith Waite kind of Devil, we often talk about how the people have chains that are loose enough that it looks like if someone wanted to remove those chains that the devil is controlling them with, that they could. And this one, I think, almost pushes that one step further, in that here, like, the person is holding on and gripping this chain, and probably gripping a chain like this, dragging something along that is heavy. Like, gripping that chain would not be comfortable, right? It, could cut up your hands and things like this, but and one could drop this, but hasn't, right? And I don't remember exactly how Mari puts it in the guidebook, but Mari says something about this card meaning, asking yourself what makes you less free and what you could let go of in order to be more free. And I think that that is a kind of classic devil in tarot question. And I really like how it is captured in this particular card. And I like the color scheme a lot. Next up, I chose the devil from the Steampunk Tarot. And this one you can see there's this kind of mechanical, we'll say devil, mechanical monster figure that's menacing up there in the top of the card, and then you have the two people in the bottom of the card, reacting and picking up implements to, maybe defend themselves against this creature. And you can tell this is the Czech language version of this deck. I don't have the English guidebook of this deck. I got it on, you can get the app for this. The app has the full guidebook in it, so I got that, but I hate reading on my phone, so I haven't read it. And the print copy of the guidebook I have is in Czech, which I do not speak. So I'm not exactly sure how this is presented in the guidebook, but something that I think is really interesting about this is that these two figures at the bottom, one is holding a wrench, and one is holding a shovel and seems to have coal at their feet, and be in front of this kind of inferno that one could be shoveling coal into to keep the fire going. So I feel like in this card, there is definitely this kind of implication of the people being subjected to the devil here, or, subjected to whatever kind of terrorizing effect that the devil is having, have had a hand in constructing that devil. And have had a hand in keeping that devil powered, right? If that is indeed what is going on here. Which I think is an interesting thing to think about when thinking about the devil perhaps as, the creator of the tableau souverain talks about it in the list of keywords in terms of kind of power relations or norms, and like discovering the incoherencies of norms that are enforced societally, said much more succinctly than that in the list of keywords. But it's like how, this prompts me to think about ways in which I have or do adhere to or uphold in my day-to-day life normative expectations that harm me and harm others. And that's a hard thing to think about, and it's a hard thing to sit with, and it's constant, right? It's constant work. And I think that the devil card in this deck invites that kind of thinking, which is a thing that I appreciate. Next up, I have the devil in Tarot Duffomantic. This devil I just think is quite eerie, and this one makes me think about the ways in which the devil can be hard to identify. When thinking about, some of the things I've been talking about when it comes to the devil that have to do with kind of cultural values, have to do with, normative ideologies and things like, for lack of better language, I don't quite mean ideologies, but I hope that it makes sense. These kind of things can be hard to unpack and hard to deconstruct. And the work of deconstructing, in the kind of post-structural deconstructing sense, is difficult. And deconstructing normative thinking means really trying to get into and underneath very, very, very deeply ingrained assumptions about how the world works. And that is very difficult. And I think that those things can be very elusive. When something becomes taken for granted, like taken for granted as accurate, for example, right? it becomes harder to really name it and point at it and critique it effectively, right? And when it is named and pointed at and critiqued effectively, sometimes the reaction to that can be negative, right? Challenging those deeply held assumptions. And I think that this is an interesting devil in its blurriness, and also in that, there's something that makes this almost like a mirror as well that I think is interesting. So I like that devil a lot. Now, finally, I had to have a sexy devil card in this video. I've been sharing devil cards that are maybe, politically thought-provoking in different kinds of ways for me. But I also feel like the devil can be a card of sensuality, can be a card of lust, can be a card of allowing oneself to experience pleasures that, maybe pleasures that are like stigmatized in various kinds of ways. It can be a card that for me can involve, confronting internalized shame, all of these kinds of aspects. I do think the devil can be a really sexy card. So I had to pick the Lubanko Tarot for a sexy devil card to be included. And the creator of the Lubanko Tarot talks about this, doesn't talk about the artwork choice too precisely. I think that the pomegranate is really interesting. I would be interested to hear others' thoughts about the pomegranate, or what I see as a pomegranate anyway. But the creator talks about this in terms of, there being nothing shameful about experiencing pleasure, and there being nothing shameful about, embracing temptations. But then in talking about each card, they talk about reversals and give kind of upright and reversed meanings. And they talk about kind of the challenging aspect of that being when one, cannot get out of a cycle, when one cannot get out of perhaps, a particular thing becoming an ingrained thing that they do that is not perhaps helping them or is not the best for them, that then, it's not that it becomes shameful, no shame, but that is the kind of challenge of the temptation side of the devil. So I really like this image, and I really like this deck. I think this deck is sexy in all sorts of ways. So that's the note that I wanted to finish on. Those are my top devil cards, top tarot trumps. Thank you, Masha, as always, for starting this series. I'm having so much fun with it and fun watching other folks' videos as well. Let me know if you have particular favorite devil cards in the comments, or what you look for in a devil card. I would love to know and to chat about it with you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.